people are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
It's success or die.
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Student Side Hustle. This week I'm talking to Adrian Cartilage. He is a physiotherapist and a provider mentor working at Proactive Health in Birkenhead. So, Adrian, how did you get into this and how did you get into the whole thing of physiotherapy?
I became a physio in the UK about 12 years ago, and I got into it, I suppose, because I injured my back, and I injured my back weightlifting, and the knowledge and skills I had, wasn't enough as a personal trainer for me to kind of correctly rehab my back.
Yeah.
So I kind of started reading into, posture and how different muscles can affect posture, and started learning about how to, correct muscle imbalances, and thought, let's take this one step further and actually try and make a career out of it, really.
Yeah.
Because personal trainers and physiotherapists are really, really similar.
Yeah.
We use exercise, exercises, stretches, and spinal mobilization and whatnot to try and fix people and get their injuries better.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to what personal trainers do, just with a bit more background understanding. So it's always been something that's kind of interested me, I guess, and something I've wanted to learn more about.
Yeah. And it's just sort of like transitioned into this thing where you knew that you wanted to make it a career. Did it just sort of
kind of happened accidentally? I never actually kind of, planned on becoming a physiotherapist. So when I was a personal trainer, I hurt my back.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who was making big waves in the personal training world. He was a guy called Paul Chek.
Yeah.
And he runs something called the Chek Institute, which was the Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology Institute. And this guy basically, he was teaching personal trainers how to fix muscle imbalances, how to address kind of postural weakness, and this stuff was aimed at personal trainers, physios, chiropractors, everyone. I went on his courses and became a Czech practitioner, and I was there learning with other physios and whatnot, and I just kind of thought, this was quite interesting. Started doing more of his courses, and really the natural progression from there was to go and do a degree in this stuff.
Yeah.
So did you going to university?
Yeah. Did you find it quite... Because I know for me, my motivation a lot for exercise has been scoliosis. Like, it's been a lot of the fear of not being mobile and not being healthy when I'm older. Do you think that is sort of quite a good motivation and quite a good, sort of motivation to lift weights, but do it safely and do it properly and do it for a long period of your life?
Yeah, definitely. As I've got older, I mean, I have to say, I'm not ashamed to say, but when I first started training, it was kind of purely for aesthetics. I wanted to look good, I wanted to shape my body, and you could say kind of bodybuild in a way. And then, I started to get injuries, and definitely as I've gotten older, my focus has definitely changed more towards, I want to maintain my long-term health and well-being, and that almost takes a priority over, bodybuilding and sculpting my body. It just so happens that if you do that stuff well, you end up looking and feeling good anyway. So I'd definitely say that my priority is long-term health and maintaining that and not injuring myself in my pursuit of long-term health. Yeah,
because I know for a lot of, I guess, 16 to 22-year-old dudes, they want to get jacked and they want to look cool, all that sort of stuff, but I think especially for me, especially the first year or so, I really just sort of went at it. I really didn't take any of the injuries into account at all. I just had no sort of realization of the repercussions of exercise in a way.
Yeah, it definitely is that. I think, new people to the gym think that the results are achieved through working as hard as you can rather than working as smart as you can. And that definitely does encourage kind of this attitude of, going to the gym and smashing it, working as hard as you possibly can. And, and no pain, no gain, right?
That kind of stuff,
And you know what? That does work to an extent, but actually you can achieve results that are just as good in a much, much easier way. I mean, there's, knowledge is power, and when I first started training, the book I read, to learn how to train was, strength training principles by Anita Bean, who was, she was a hugely respected kind of author in the strength training world.
Yeah.
Back when I was, 21, 19, 21 sort of age range. And really, when you look through that, I've still got that book, and when you look through it now, you kind of think, geez, this stuff's so off, it's wrong.
Is it just crazy off the mark?
It's just basically, giving you kind of an idea of, it's based on the old American Sports College of Medicine guidelines on strength training, so, how many sets and reps you should do, and what percentage of your 1 rep max you should lift, and things like that, and it still uses a lot of the kind of the programming structure that was used many years ago, and has now been found that there's better methods to use, and it's all through research and knowledge really. But it's so you think that education has changed, so therefore training styles have changed. But I think attitudes have remained the same, which is you go and work as hard as you can, and that's how you get the results. But it'll take time for that to change. What would you recommend for the person getting into the gym? How would you recommend they take on the sort of mindset that achieves longevity and achieves I guess if you're starting out and you're thinking about going to the gym and you have a goal in mind, which is to kind of I want to build my frame, build some muscle, get stronger, and you thinking this is a long-term investment for me, this is something I know that I'm going to stick at for a long time, then it pays to kind of start by working on the basics very first. So working on your technique in the deadlift, the squat, whatever exercises you're going to be doing, if it's going to be bench press and so on, because actually if you develop bad habits in those exercises very early on, as you start to increase the load over time, that is what is going to start producing injuries. But actually if you develop very good habits, realize where your weaknesses are in your technique, and be analytical of yourself in terms of using video analysis and getting people to look at your technique and how you're lifting, then actually address those problems very early on, your chances of injury much later on, when you've built up the load for lifting bigger weights, is going to be pretty minimal.
And how would you recommend doing that? Do you recommend just not trying to, because there's a lot of tendency to call it ego lifting, like doing all the, just trying to go as heavy as possible, as fast as possible, because they don't realize there's other forms of progression, sort of thing?
There's a couple of ways to do it, really. So basically, you have to educate yourself, and use reliable sources of education, because there's a lot of what people refer to as bro science in the gym, which is, it's I heard so-and-so say this, and I heard someone say, if it doesn't hurt, you're not working hard enough, and things like that. So basically, it's kind of, choose your information sources wisely. Obviously, well-respected authors, Joe DeFranco, loads of different, I could name hundreds, but I'll do that later. And then, contrast the information you've read. So don't just accept it for what it is. Say, okay, well, this is one person's method of doing things. Does that correspond with what another author has said about their methods? So use a range of different information sources. Get people to watch you, because you can have all the education in the world. If you can't see yourself lifting, and you don't have someone who's experienced to watch over, you can't sometimes see what's going wrong. I've had it, I'm a physio with, 12 years of experience, and I still make mistakes in my own squat because, I can't see them. So it's really, really important to kind of, I would say education is the biggest factor in terms of learning, and then, using your own camera phone to record your technique and then look at it. It really helps to kind of leave your ego at the door when you go to the gym, and definitely not focus on lifting the biggest weights, because often the people who get the best results aren't necessarily the ones that train with the biggest weights. And I find the more, when I when I say back in the day, a year ago, when I would try and go heavy because I thought that was the only way I could progress, it just led to my wrists feeling shit or my legs feeling shit, and everything would just end up feeling bad. When it goes to the sort of, I guess, theories or the reputable sources of lifting and progression,
do you find there's a lot of contradictions, or is it relatively similar in what the respectable people sort of say?
You know what? There's a lot of different methods, but all of them, I would say, are now coming to the point where they're all looking very similar.
Yeah.
You know, there used to be, you know, lots of different methods in terms of intensity, volume, you know, percentage of repetition max, so how heavy you were going to lift. And I would say, it's all looking pretty similar now, and everybody seems to be along the right lines in terms of, you know, for example, you know, there's a study published that demonstrated, you know, muscle gain in the bench press was greater in a control group that did 25 reps with a repetition max of about 60 to 70% versus a control group that did 6 reps with 90% of the weight, 90% of their 1 rep max. So what that tells you straight away is that, you know, lifting a weight with more repetition versus a heavier weight will give you more muscle gain. Yeah. You know, and if you'd have said that to people, you'd have said that to me, you know, years ago, I'd have said, no, that's how you build endurance. If you want to build endurance in a muscle, you lift a lighter weight for more repetitions. But actually now, you know, it turns out it's right.
I did have a question on here focusing on sort of the differences that you think, and sort of one thing I'd like to touch on is sort of the point of, is there a point of, for the average lifter, they're not a power lifter, they're not a real bodybuilder, they just sort of want to be fit, healthy, etc., maybe look good. Do you think there is a point of sort of the extremes of rep ranges, either like the 1 to 3s or the 20 plus?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, okay, let's take it back to basics. So someone who has never trained before in the gym, so someone who's thinking for the first time, right, I'm going to get started. The first 6 weeks of that individual training is adaptations to the central nervous system. So that is the brain learning to activate the motor units in the muscle to produce the contraction in the muscle so that they can actually physically lift the weight. So in the first 6 weeks of training, there is no muscular development. You know, your muscles are getting stronger, but it's purely created by adaptations in the brain and in the nervous system and in the motor units within the muscles. So we call that neuromuscular effect. After those first 6 weeks, that's when you will start to develop strength. In terms of, you'll see, you know, if we talk about what happens at a cellular level, it is the actin myosin, you know, components in the muscle start to get bigger, the cross-directional size of the muscle gets bigger, and you start to get stronger. So if you think, you know, for the first 6 weeks, in order to achieve that, it would be pretty pointless to go as hard as you can, because your muscles are just, or your nervous system is just adapting. So really, you just need to practice the technique, get your body used to the movements, and maybe, you know, start on some machines and then progress gradually to kind of free weights, really.
Would that mean, for example, say if an untrained individual they know they could squat 60 kgs if they really tried, would you say for the first 6 weeks, if they've only really done it once, they squatted one time in the gym at high school or something, would you recommend that they keep it at like 40 or keep it at like a lower number?
Definitely, I would definitely recommend to keep it lower, because you're going to imagine that when you are squatting with, say, you know, your maximum weight of what you can do, you know, at maximum, everything's on the kind of limit in terms of, you're not just putting pressure through your muscles, you're putting pressure through your joints, the cartilage in your joints, you're putting pressure through the ligaments in your spine, the discs in your spine, and you've got to give all of those structures time to adapt. You know, even things like bone density, you know, after 12 weeks of training, bone density starts to increase. You know, so there's other adaptations that happen in the body from training, not just in the muscles, and it's really important to give that time, you know, to occur.
And like, would that be a major factor in reducing the likelihood of injury if you started slower?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, because, you know, your highest risk is when you are at, you know, your tissue limit. So your tissue limit is kind of the structural limit of your tendons, ligaments, joints, etc. when you increase that, so when you go over that, your risk of injury kind of goes up exponentially.
Yeah.
So for example, if you train at say 90% intensity of what you can lift.
Yeah.
So how you work out, percentage of intensity.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, let's pick an exercise called the bench press.
Mm.
If you do 3 reps as
Yeah.
heavy as you can, and then you do 2 reps as heavy as you can, and then do 1 rep as heavy as you can, so that's the maximum amount of weight that you can lift for 1 repetition. They'd call that your 1 rep max.
Yeah.
So let's say, just for argument's sake, that was 100 kilos. So then 90% of your 1 repetition max would be 90 kg.
Yeah.
Now, when you are exercising at say 85%, of your 1 rep max, or 85% intensity.
Yeah.
Okay. Your risk of injury goes up kind of exponentially, really, because you're causing tissue breakdown, not just in the muscles but in the joints, in the tendons, the ligaments. And if you don't let kind of like an adequate repair process happen, then you are going to cause an injury. Now you might say, okay, all right, but it might be someone who plays a sport. Say for example, someone they're going to squat on a Monday, and then they're going to go for a run on a Tuesday, and then they're going to play rugby on a Wednesday. You might say, okay, well, they've not squatted for, say, 3 days if they squat again on the Thursday.
Yeah.
But actually, their body's been under load continuously since that duration.
Yeah.
So there's been inadequate recovery, because the intensity of the training is so high, the risk of injury is so high as well.
Yeah.
So it has to be kind of goal specific, really. I would say train to the intensity of your goals. And this is another thing that a lot of people get really wrong, is they go to the gym without really understanding what their goals are. So, someone might say, well, I want to get big. I want to build my muscles, and look better with my shirt off. And that's fine, because, that's going to have positive effects on your health as well as aesthetically.
Yeah.
So they might go to the gym and they might be lifting, as heavy as they can, like working at 90% of their intensity.
Yeah.
And the research says that that's not really going to produce the results that they want. That's going to make them really strong.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you want to strong. So powerlifters will train at 90% of intensity, all the time. But they will probably train, if you added it up cumulatively, for maybe 1-2 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's not much, is it?
Yeah, it's very like... Do you think there's a place for the 1 to 3 rep max for the normal individual?
No, not at all.
Is it just because it causes so much, I guess, destruction? Like it's
I mean, the actual testing process itself is actually quite dangerous.
Yeah.
You need someone to watch you. So even when I do 1 rep max testing, my 1 rep max in terms of when I work to absolute failure is different when someone is watching me, because they will say, right, your technique is now starting to falter.
Yeah.
So actually you've hit your 1 rep max.
Yeah.
Whereas I'll be thinking in my mind, but I could still slide on another, 10 kg here.
Yeah.
But what I can't tell is that my back's rounding out in the squat.
Yeah.
Or my knees are coming in, I'm not controlling the weight. Basically my form has gone to pot. So basically I am pushing the limit of the 1 rep max, but I'm doing so to the detriment of, kind of my health and technique.
Yeah. Would you, when someone's sort of, if they were calculating their 1 rep max in a safe way, either with their physio watching them, or would you recommend a friend watch them, or would you recommend mainly a personal trainer or someone experienced?
No, I'd recommend that's only really applicable for kind of elite athletes. For your average Joe in the gym, it's not necessary at all, because you can use this system called the 10 rep max or 20 rep max. Yeah. So basically, if your rep range is 20 reps or 25 reps, then you basically you keep trialing different weights until you found the one that you can only just complete 25 reps with.
Yeah.
Much easier system. And the research has shown that will work out to be roughly 60-70% of your maximum intensity. So for example, the research says to build muscle you're aiming to lift kind of maybe 15 to 20 reps with about 50 to 60% of your 1 rep max. Now when you do 1 rep max testing, and let's say you figure out with a bench press that's 100 kilos, then 50 to 60% is 50 or 60 kilos.
Yeah.
When people do the same test, but they do, say, 15 to 20 reps,
Yep.
it tends to work out to be 50 or 60 kilos.
Yeah, so it's relatively
So you're kind
safer
of going
to do
through
it
the
that
same
way,
process. It's
and
much safer. Yep.
yeah. Would you still recommend they do, if they're going to do the 10 rep max test, would they? You recommend they do it with their physio or with just a normal person watching them?
Yeah, just kind of someone who maybe has the same level of education in terms of, someone who might have, read the same books. Or you could just say to someone, look, just do me a favour and just hold my phone and record me.
Yeah.
It's the best way, to be honest. I know that certainly if somebody is going to give me pointers when I'm squatting or deadlifting or kind of doing anything in the gym, technique-wise, to see a video and them to point out what I'm doing is far more beneficial than them just saying, oh yeah, your knee came in a little bit on that one, or you rounded your back a bit. So yeah, I definitely want to see some sort of video analysis.
Yeah.
Very easy to do these days.
Would there be when you've sort of filmed yourself, is there any places you would recommend to go to look at proper, really good form?
Oh, you mean like a perfect example?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yourself with a lighter weight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people.
Because what you're saying there is, okay, so my squat's going to be different to your squat.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
What's perfect for me is not going to be perfect for you because biomechanically we're different. You know, I might have a shorter tibia, or you might have a longer femur, you might have a longer arms and a shorter torso, so your deadlift is going to be different to mine. Yeah. So actually, if you try and make your deadlift the same as mine, you could actually come away with an injury, or just generally feeling like you can't perform as well. So therefore, you should always compare your technique to yourself with a lighter weight, where you know that it feels good. You're feeling like this is good form, and someone else confirms that that is good form for you.
So you make sure you've got someone who's sort of told you that this form is good, and they know their stuff, and then
definitely
as you up the weight, make sure that that's consistent and make sure it's not
making sure consistency and you're not sacrificing form just to pile on some extra weight. Yeah. But that's kind of gym common sense. I'd say everybody knows that these days. You still see it, but not so much. I mean, it used to be, in the gyms, you'd see people, hoisting huge amounts of weight, just to kind of lift the weight, not really to maintain the technique. And I must say, I don't see that much anymore. So much with YouTube and podcasts and news articles. You only got to scroll through Facebook and see, 4 or 5 articles on squat technique and stuff. Everybody's an expert now, and it's great because it's kind of changed the landscape for how people train. Yeah, I'm finding it's just generally in the gym now. I always hear about this culture of people doing these weird things in the gym, like doing 2 centimeter range of motion bicep curls or something, like ridiculous things. But just from what I've seen from my friends, most of them are relatively onto it when it comes to the gym. It's never these crazy deviations. There's a lot of still bro science, especially for my demographic. There's still a lot of that, especially with supplements. There's still a ton. When it comes to sort of supplements and nutrition, is there anything that you think is sort of for the typical average Joe in the gym? What would be your recommendations? Well, this is another funny one. I mean, back in the day, I used to take everything, take obviously protein supplements, carbohydrate supplements. I'd take BCCAs. I'd take GABA, which was gamma aminobutyric acid back in the day, and that kind of helped with sleep and recovery. And you know what? A lot of the supplementation, in fact, all supplementation, and I'm pretty sure I can say this accurately, all supplementation, apart from creatine, has not been clinically shown as being effective. So what that means is protein powder does not accelerate recovery if there is adequate protein intake in the diet. Okay, fair enough. If you have someone who never eats protein, never eats meat or pulses, legumes, beans, etc., then they're going to benefit from a protein shake. But if you've got someone who regularly consumes protein, meat, fish, nuts, seeds, etc., there's actually very little clinical evidence that suggests that protein supplement is going to be of benefit in terms of muscle recovery and muscle hypertrophy, so
Yeah.
muscle building. Likewise for branched chain amino acids, they've also recently kind of been disproven as being successful. It used to say that people would take them kind of during and before a workout to stop kind of muscle breakdown during a workout. Not really shown to be effective. Protein, whey protein consumption during maximal intensity exercise has been shown to produce shorter recovery times and reduce muscle breakdown during workouts in maximal exercise athletes.
Yeah, so
you've got to be
legit athletes.
You've got to be, Usain Bolt, or you've got to be Chris Froome, to actually benefit from this stuff.
So mainly, because from what I've seen online is creatine pretty legit. There's not really anything that's sort of pseudoscience about it or whatever. But with BCAAs, I've also seen a lot about it being a waste of money, just sweetener for your pre-workout or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, creatine produces around 7%, performance improvements. I think it's 3 or 7, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's one of the two. It's fairly minor. And again, that's all of this stuff is measured in athletes.
Yeah.
So if you're average Joe, training in the gym, good diet, good nutrition in terms of eating healthy, eating protein, you're going to be fine. Save your money. I actually stopped taking protein shake about 3 years ago. Yeah. And I didn't notice any change in my body shape or size. I didn't lose any weight. I thought, I did it as a bit of an experiment. I thought I was going to drop loads of muscle. I was a bit paranoid, and nothing changed.
Yeah, I used to take whey protein when I first started, but then I noticed it gave me a bunch of pimples. So then I got off whey protein, pimples cleared up quite a lot, and didn't notice a difference.
In most individuals it's not going to do any harm. So if someone really wants to take it, and it does have its place. Like for example, I used to always carry one in my bag, if I didn't have time to eat, or if I needed something really convenient and quick. I know that's not an excuse, but it was handy. But likewise, I could have said, I could have carried like a pack of seeds or and a banana, and that would have had the same effect. So I use protein shake for convenience, not for muscle performance. Or
it's
muscle
not
growth.
like a necessary thing. You can get it from...
For athletes, maybe it's different, because they're exercising at, different intensities, different durations. The requirement for protein is going to be much higher. For an average guy like you and me, we probably need around 1 gram of protein per kilo. Bodybuilders sometimes 1.5. So it varies, and that can depend on what literature and what research you've read. But for the average person, it can be as little as 0.75 grams per kilo.
I feel like it's not. I used to always stress about the amount of protein I was getting. Now I'm sort of like, I'm probably getting the adequate amount. Like I've seen a lot of muscle gains over the time I've been lifting, and I've been eating relatively similar, just more and more and more. And I found like I've never really noticed if I'm increasing my protein 1 month and it hasn't really done anything for me. When it comes to also, I'd like to do 2 more questions. What would be your thoughts on things like, when it comes to pre-workout, there's a pre-workout that I think is quite beneficial. It's not like one of those random things they sell at like NZ Muscle or whatever. It's very, they sort of, do you know Omar Isuf?
No.
Oh, he's like a quite a good YouTuber. He does a lot of, collaborates with a lot of like science-based people. They do a lot of studies, stuff like that. And the ingredients that they use 4 ingredients. It's creatine, it's caffeine, it's citrulline malate. And I think that's it. I can't remember. Oh, and arginine sulfate, but apparently, I don't know, what is it? It's quite common, but apparently it's only been, they just threw it in there because people said yes, throw it in anyway. But do you have an opinion on citrulline malate?
Never heard of it, but I do know that caffeine is also, hugely used in athletics, in professional sport. It's perfectly legal, and it does have performance enhancing benefits. The main thing is, if you are going to work out to the point where you're burning a lot of energy, you want to fuel that workout. So taking a supplement like that
Yeah.
may be beneficial, but you still got to supplement some kind of carbohydrate.
Yeah.
You know, or make sure you've got some fuel in the tank before you go and hit the gym.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who will say, yeah, I go to the gym first thing in the morning and I often don't eat breakfast before training.
Yeah.
If you're not going to fuel your workout, you're not
Yeah.
going to hit the intensity that you need, you know, in order, or you're not going to be able to hit the volume you need
Yeah.
in order to get the results.
Yeah. And
So-
what would you recommend as like, because for me, quite a lot myself, I try to get up quite early, especially now during uni and gym before uni.
Yeah.
And I'll usually have like a bowl of cereal or a banana or something. What sort of amount of carbohydrates would you recommend? Like, would it be a banana? Would it be more?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends what you're going to do, to be honest. For an
Mm.
average weight session, okay, you'll probably, you know, like an hour, say like 40 minutes of lifting weights, you're probably
Yeah.
going to burn through about 350 to 400 calories,
Yeah.
which you think doesn't sound much, but it's the after effects. So when your body's repairing itself, it's
Mm.
going to continue to burn more through more calories
Yeah.
as it's repairing the muscles. Now, so you need, you know, if you think, okay, I need 400 calories to
Mm.
fuel this workout, and then afterwards I need to continue eating to
Yeah.
fuel the repair process. So yeah, something like a banana, small bowl of cereal,
Yeah.
you know, even something protein based is also
Yeah.
really beneficial as well. Maybe that's where your protein shake could come in.
Yeah.
Just a small protein shake would be absolutely fine, and you need to be doing that, you know, good kind of like, well, for the banana 30 minutes beforehand,
Yeah.
bowl of cereal, you know, 45 minutes to an hour
Yeah.
to let that digest,
Yeah.
because the last thing you want is food digesting while you're trying to lift
Mm.
weights
Would
or train.
I've heard a little bit about it being when if you eat, you'll be, I don't even know which ones it is, anabolic, catabolic.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah. So
thing whole?
basically, I mean, all. So anabolic basically means it is activity that is causing kind of muscle breakdown and muscle recovery.
Mm.
You know, the anabolic and aerobic. Aerobic is primary muscle fuel for aerobic activity is oxygen and fat.
Mm.
You know, so that's why you can maintain aerobic activity such as running
Yeah.
for a lot longer. When you are, you know, anabolic,
Mm.
you are depleting the body's energy resources in terms
Yeah.
of calories or glucose, glycogen, etc. And that can only be maintained for so long
Mm.
until that, you know, your body refuels. And that's the process of being anabolic. Catabolic is where you don't fuel the workout correctly, and when you are doing weights, your body needs energy very rapidly,
Yeah.
and the aerobic system can't supply that energy rapidly enough.
Mm.
So your body will turn to break down its muscle stores
Yeah.
in order to convert energy. So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, for example, in the situation where someone has woken up, not had breakfast, gone to the gym, they've done some fairly intense workout, they've not fueled that workout, what their
Yeah.
body is actually going to be doing to a certain extent is breaking down muscle tissue
Yeah.
in order to fuel that workout. So you could say it's counterproductive, it's a waste of time,
Yeah.
it's not the most effective way that person could be working.
Because there's all this sort of stuff about intermittent fasting.
Yeah,
blah,
so
blah, blah,
intermittent
like-
fasting. So intermittent fasting and fasting has its place. You know, it's an
Yeah.
entirely different topic. It's really beneficial, but you're
Mm.
not meant to do high intensity training when you are fasting. So
Mm.
you know, a walk, a gentle run. Basically, the recommendation is you're not really meant to go out of what you'd class zone 1 or zone 2 in terms
Yeah.
of intensity. So kind of, you know, like 50% of your maximum heart rate.
Yeah.
You know,
So
that kind of
relatively chill, like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, for example, you know, like I do intermittent fasting cardio,
Yeah.
and you know, I'll sit on my bike for an hour, you know, real slow, steady pace.
Mm.
I can maintain a conversation. I'm not
Yeah.
getting out of breath.
Yeah.
When I look at my kind of analysis of that ride,
Mm.
I've probably not burnt more than, you know, 300-400 calories
Mm.
during that time.
Sweet as. And what would be your final piece of advice for the average Joe in the gym?
Okay, average Joe in the gym is create, you know, get the basics right from the start. You know, if it is something you're serious about and you do want to progress to lifting bigger, heavier weights, identify your goals. So make sure you know what your goals are. Do you want to get bigger? Do you want to get stronger? Do you want to get fitter? Do you want to get leaner? Actually, once you know what you're trying to achieve and you're really clear on that, you can design a program, which you would call kind of like a training plan that is based around achieving those goals.
Yeah.
So for example, someone says, I want to get bigger. Well, that's great. It means you don't necessarily need to lift really heavy weights. So lifting kind of, 80, 90%
Yeah.
of your maximum, of your 1 rep max is pointless. You want to be hitting closer to 60, 70 with higher repetitions, and you're going to get better results. You're going to have less injury, and get there quicker. Whereas someone who wants to get stronger, they are going to have to lift much heavier, but they don't have to train as often.
Yeah.
Maybe only 2-3 times a week. Someone who wants to get big has got to train more often. Maybe 5-6 times a week. So understand what your goals are and put a plan in place.
Yeah.
Don't just turn up to the gym and do what you feel like. Actually have a structured plan that says, right, I'm going to lift this much weight today, I'm going to do this many sets and reps, and make sure it's progressive.
Yeah. And where can people find you, and where can people find your clinic?
Cool. So people can find me in one of 2 places. So they can find me at my physiotherapy clinic on Macoya Road in Birkenhead. The practice is called Proactive Physiotherapy, and they can book in with me by calling up the number in the session notes, or they can see me at Club Physical Gym, which is where I do my physical rehabilitation and do my strengthening training for my patients and clients. And again, they can book in with me the same way by calling the number in the session notes.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.